Hello, brothers and sisters. Today we are celebrating the Epiphany, and the theme is that the journey of faith is renewed in God's presence. Uh, Along this line, several years ago, Pope Francis said, "Let us never forget this. The journey of faith finds renewed strength and fulfillment only when it is made in the presence of God." So let's unpack that quote as we celebrate the Epiphany, the arrival of the Magi, traditionally described as a trio based upon the three gifts they brought as they came to the humble cave in Bethlehem. The Magi, they traveled towards Bethlehem, which speaks to us because we are called to journey towards Jesus. The question arises, why did these learned men from the East, some say as far away as Persia, set out on their journey? They had lots of reasons to stay put. They were wise men and astrologers. They were probably famous within their community, and they had wealth. In other words, they had attained a certain level of cultural, social, and economic security to stay where they were, being content with what uh, they already knew and what they possessed. But they let themselves to be unsettled by a question and by a sign. We hear, "Where is he who has been born the King of the Jews? For we have seen his star." They didn't allow themselves to retreat into the caves of gloom, which characterized the palace of King Herod, whose dwelling was filled with dark, gloomy intrigue and suspicion and fear and envy. The Magi weren't like that. They didn't settle to repeat the same old, same old. They weren't content to plod through life, but they yearned for greater horizons. Their eyes were not fixed on what was below, but they were looking up into the sky. They're open to the heavens and the divine presence. Pope Benedict XVI said shortly before he resigned his pontificate that the Magi were men with a restless heart. They were filled with expectation, not satisfied with their secure income and respectable place in society. They were seekers after God. Where did it originate, this spirit of healthy restlessness that led them on their journey? It was born of a deep desire that transcended our basic desires of safety, security, affection, and acceptance. While these desires are good, they are limited. To desire deep within our soul means to embrace uh, life as a mystery that surpasses us. It's a deep, holy longing that is not just about our immediate needs here and now, but something much greater. It is like a blank canvas that cries out for color. Vincent van Gogh once said that his need for God made him go outside at night to paint the stars, so wondrously depicted in The Starry Night. For that is the way of God, the way that God made us. We are hardwired to be with God, and He created us to have this inborn desire directed towards God, just as the star did for the Magi. So, what we desire is of utmost importance. Indeed, we can say that we become what we desire. If we desire only wealth and prestige and power and pleasure, we will become what we worship. If we desire God, we will become godlike. For it is our desire for God that expands our gaze to heaven, the transcendent, and drives our lives forward with zeal and anticipation, beyond banal consumerism, beyond overcoming the fear of being involved with the lives of our brothers and sisters. In the words of St. Augustine, our entire life is an exercise in desire. Brothers and sisters, as it was true for the Magi, so it is for us. The journey of life and faith demands a deep desire and inner zeal. Sometimes we get stuck by settling for an external and formal religiosity in which we just go through the motions. Sometimes we're content with repeating the same old religious formulas in which we maintain our religious status quo rather than allow Jesus to surprise us. Our journey of faith needs to be sparked by a deep-seated desire to take up the challenge of entering into a living, lively, interpersonal relationship with God and my neighbor. Does my heart still yearn to be with God, to be authentically present to others? The question arises, how can we nurture this desire? One way harkens back to how we began the homily. The journey of faith finds renewed strength and fulfillment only when it is made in the presence of God. Let us recover our taste for adoration, in which our desire can be rekindled. Desire for God leads to adoration and in turn renews our desire. For our desire for God can only grow when we place ourselves in his presence. For Jesus alone purifies our desires. From what? From the tyranny of our needs, which is an egoic impulse. Indeed, our soul becomes sick when our desires are reduced to our needs. God, on the other hand, elevates our desires. He purifies them and heals them of selfishness, opening them to loving God with our whole heart and our whole soul and loving our neighbor as ourselves. That is why we should not neglect adoration, the prayer of silent presence before the one true God. People of God, let us know that even in the darkest nights, a star continues to shine just as it did for the Magi. It is the star of the Lord who comes to us to care for our broken humanity. Let us set out on a path towards him, frequently resting in his presence. Like the Magi, let us lift up our eyes and follow the star that God makes shine, leading us along the way of Jesus. As restless seekers, let us not give in to fear, but to be open to God's surprises. Let us dream. Let us seek to be at one with God and fellowship with each other, and let us adore. Amen.